I made a dumb meme a few days ago. It was Dexter and the Trinity Killer talking about the Chaos Shuffle. And something weird happened in the comments. People weren't arguing. If you spent any time in the DVD community, you know how rare that is. Any post about game balance, about perks, about killers, it's a war zone. But under this stupid Dexter edit, people were just sharing stories. I got Lightborn against a flashlight squad. I got a full locker build against Dredge. The random perks actually cut the toxicity by half. And I started to think about why that is. Because there's this weird split about how people talk about Chaos Shuffle. And I think I finally understand what's going on. When Chaos Shuffle goes active, you see two very different reactions. The first camp groans. Great, I can't use my builds. Guess I'll play something else this week. These are players who spent thousands of hours optimizing. They know what works. They have their loadouts dialed in, and being forced off them feels like a punishment. And then there's the second camp. And this is the weird part. They come back to the game. Oh, Chaos Shuffle is on? Maybe I'll actually play this week. These are often the most burned out veterans. People who haven't touched DVD in months. And somehow, removing their choices is what gets them to boot up the game again. That's strange, right? The mode that takes things away is the mode that brings people back. Here's what I think is happening. In a normal match, there's an invisible layer sitting on top of everything. I call it the judgment layer. It's not something in the game. It's something that's in your head. And it's in everyone else's head too. You see a survivor running meta perks. You make an assumption about them. You see a killer running pain res and pop. And you've already decided what person they are. And when you die, or when you lose, part of your brain is running a courtroom. Whose fault was it? Who can I blame? Who was tryharding? Who threw? This is exhausting. And most of us don't even know we're doing it anymore. Chaos Shuffle deletes this layer. Not on purpose. It's just a side effect. But when everyone's running random perks, the courtroom shuts down. You can't blame your teammates for bringing a bad build. You can't look at the killer's perks and decide they're a tryhard before the match even starts. You can't get mad at yourself for not running the right thing. The part of the toxicity that comes from the loadout judgment just isn't there. People can still tunnel. They can still slug. Survivors can still crank gens like it's a speed run. The mode doesn't fix that, but it removes one specific layer of the blame game. The "of course they won, look at what they brought" layer. And apparently, that's enough to change how a lot of matches feel. That comment cuts the toxicity by half. I think this is what they're actually describing. It's not that people suddenly become nicer. It's that the structure for judgment disappears. There's nothing to judge. Something else shifts too. And this one's more subtle. In a normal match, you're playing against the other side. Survivor versus killer. Your build versus their build. Your skill versus their skill. It's adversarial by design. In Chaos Shuffle, there's a third opponent, the randomness itself. You load in, and immediately you're negotiating with whatever the game handed you. Okay, I have this perk I've literally never used. What does it do? Can I make this work? The killer isn't your enemy in that moment. The chaos is. And here's the weird part. That feels collaborative. You're all just trying to survive whatever the entity throws at you. The survivors are confused. The killer is confused. Everyone's reading perks mid-chase like it's 2017. That's the thing I keep coming back to. When you first started playing DBD, you didn't know what any of the perks did. You didn't know the meta. You didn't know which pallets were safe and which ones would get you killed. You were just figuring it out. Reacting, experimenting, and that was fun. Not because you were winning. You were probably losing constantly, but because everything was new. Every match taught you something. Every death was a lesson, not a failure. Then you played for 1,000 hours, 2,000, 5,000, and that feeling went away. You solved the game. You know exactly what's good, what's bad, what you should be running. The optimization path is so clear that deviating from it feels like trolling. Chaos Shuffle artificially creates that day one energy. It makes veterans into noobs again, not in skill, But in orientation, you don't know what you have. You don't know what they have. You're just playing, reacting, seeing what happens. And for a lot of burned out players, that's the only way back in. Look at the comments people leave about this mode. I got Lightborn. I got a locker build. The game gave them a narrative they didn't even choose, and they got to see it play out. Normal matches just blur together. You run the same perks, you do the same loops, you win or lose and queue up again. But the one time the game gave me the perfect build, that's a memory. That's a story you tell. And I think that matters more than people realize. We say we want to win, but what we actually want is to feel something. I think that's why optimized wins fade from memory so fast. The chaos that somehow works is the stuff you actually remember. Here's what's funny about the criticism this mode gets. The most common complaints aren't, "This mode is bad," or "I hate random perks." They're, "Let me read the perks in the loading screen, and I don't know what half of these perks do." That's not rejection. That's a request for better onboarding. People want to engage with the chaos. They just want to understand the hand they were dealt before the match starts. If players actually hated this mode, they'd ask for it to be removed. Instead, they're asking for quality of life improvements, and that tells you everything. So back to the meme. Dexter's standing there, dreading the match. He's the burned out veteran. He lost access to his crutches, and he's sure he's about to have a miserable time. And Arthur is just genuinely excited. He sprang out of bed. The joke is that Dexter looks at him and has this moment of realization. Wait, why is he happy? Why am I not? And I think the reason it resonated is because a lot of people recognize themselves in Dexter. They've been the guy who loads into Chaos Shuffle, already annoyed, already bracing for the frustration. But then the match starts, and they don't have their meta perks, and neither does anyone else. And somehow, it's fine. It's more than fine. It's the most fun they've had in weeks. I'm not saying Chaos Shuffle is secretly the best mode in the game. I'm not saying you should love it. I do think it accidentally does something important. It removes the weight, the optimization, the judgment, the pressure to perform with the correct loadout. It's not the only mode that does this. 2v8 takes a lot of that pressure off too. When you've got another killer backing you up or 7 other survivors sharing the load, the stakes feel lower. You're not alone with your mistakes. But Chaos Shuffle does it differently. It's not about having backup. It's about everyone being equally lost. And for a lot of players, especially the ones who've been here for years, who know too much, who've solved the game so thoroughly it stopped being fun, that reset is the only thing that lets them play again. Here's my honest take though. I get why it works. I feel the relief when I play it. But I also know that I drift back to structure pretty quickly. I grew up without a lot of it. And I think when that's your experience, you end up finding comfort in routine, in knowing what you have, in the control that optimization gives you, even if it comes with pressure. So I'm not the guy who only plays during Chaos Shuffle, but I understand why some people are. And I don't think they're wrong. Maybe Arthur was on to something, even if I'm still just a little bit Dexter. What's your Chaos Shuffle story? The lucky build, the cursed build, the one that made no sense but somehow still worked? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. My name is Jin. Thanks for watching.
I wanna know your dark side. I wanna know your secrets. I wanna be your lifeline. So I wait for you, wait for me. Wait for you, wait for me. Tell me you're more than just a highlight. Pretty pictures on the outside. I hate to stare at you through these lights. So I wait for you, wait for me. Wait for you, wait for me.